Hello, my name is Carlos Martinez and I am the Director of NYC Parks GreenThumb. We are the community gardening program of the New York City Parks Department, and since 1978, our mission has been to support and sustain community gardeners and urban farmers across the five boroughs while preserving open space. As we approach the 2023 relicensing cycle, this presentation is designed for anyone interested in learning more about the GreenThumb License Agreement, which is the core document that gives more than 370 garden groups legal permission to operate a community garden on Parks Department property. We hope this information is shared with existing garden members more broadly and with potential new members as a resource reference. In this presentation, I will provide a general overview of GreenThumb and the support we provide to over 550 groups, including the gardens under Parks jurisdiction. In addition, I will provide a summary of the rights and responsibilities outlined in the license agreement. Finally, I will explain the process that garden groups operating on Parks property need to follow for the upcoming 2023 relicensing cycle. So let me first give you a brief overview about GreenThumb. For almost 45 years, GreenThumb has been dedicated to assisting community gardens across the city. GreenThumb supports groups by providing them with free access to land, garden materials and supplies, workshops and trainings, events and programs, property management, and technical assistance. These free services and material support are offered to more than 20,000 volunteer gardeners who care for over 550 community gardens in the five boroughs. Combined, that's over 100 acres of publicly accessible open space. I want to use this opportunity to acknowledge and thank every community gardener for your dedication and advocacy all these years in preserving community gardens in New York City and for engaging your local communities. Now let's talk in detail about the support provided by GreenThumb. All registered gardens in good standing are eligible to receive free gardening supplies and resources throughout the year, including soil, compost, wood chips, mulch, lumber, and landscape fabric. GreenThumb also organizes two large seasonal supply distributions in different locations each year, one in the spring and one in the fall. Examples of supplies we have given out in the past include shovels, garbage bags, hose, rakes, hoses, wheelbarrows, icebreakers, and calcium chloride. GreenThumb offers community gardeners a limited amount of free plants once a year in the spring at our annual GreenThumb plant distribution. Each registered community garden group may pick up a selection of vegetable, herb, and native plant starts. Garden groups are welcome to reach out to their outreach coordinator about any additional needs or supplies so we can connect groups with available resources or partners, share information about potential opportunities or grants. In addition to our gardening supplies and material support, GreenThumb offers in-person and virtual programming year-round, and that is more than 150 educational workshops, webinars, and large public events. All GreenThumb workshops and events are free and open to the public, while our specialized trainings are offered to our registered garden groups. GreenThumb also offers garden groups technical assistance and organizing support. Our staff can help garden groups organize workdays and volunteer events, develop processes and bylaws for garden governance, connect with information and resources, navigate rules and regulations, build membership, and establish new garden groups. Finally, GreenThumb helps garden groups with special projects and connects them with partners and other available resources. Some examples of this support include The facilitation of the permitting process with the Department of Environmental Protection to access water from the nearby fire hydrant to irrigate plants. The coordination with the Department of Sanitation to resolve dumping issues. The offering of a portable toilet rental program at reduced rates, and the partnership with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene in addressing rodent and mosquito issues in gardens. Let's now move on to the NYC Parks GreenThumb license agreement. The license allows a GreenThumb garden group on property owned by NYC Parks the legal permission to garden on these sites. Licensed garden groups must operate in accordance with the agreement. In other words, the license agreement describes the relationship between garden groups and NYC Parks. It outlines the rights and responsibilities of the garden group, including maintenance, public access, and signage. Let's have a closer look at those rights and responsibilities. The license primarily allows for the design, installation, and operation of a community garden by a volunteer group. These gardens are stewarded by volunteer groups and they have the autonomy to function through grassroots decision making. Community garden groups make their own decisions regarding the use or uses of their community garden. And this is how GreenThumb gardens have been transformed by volunteers into green spaces for relaxation, growing food, socializing, cultural programming, or a combination. And to support the operation and maintenance of the garden, groups are allowed to sell agricultural produce grown on site and host fundraising events in the garden. Gardens are public spaces and must remain open and accessible to everyone. All GreenThumb community gardens must remain open to the public at least 20 hours per week during the gardening season between April 1st and October 31st. Remember that gardens are required to open for at least 5 hours each weekend, Saturday and or Sunday. This slide serves as a summary of the public access requirement. Please remember that groups must share their open hours with GreenThumb before the start of each season. These open hours are updated and posted on the GreenThumb website. Gardens are required to post on the garden's gate the correct signage, including the NYC Park signage, which is provided and installed by GreenThumb, open hour sign, and information on how to contact and join the garden, as well as the assumption of risk sign, which is explained later in this presentation. In addition, a copy of the license agreement must be posted within the garden. Gardens are inclusive and welcoming spaces, and your group should have a clear process in place for accepting new members, which must be outlined in the group's bylaws. Please keep in mind, waitlists can be made for garden plots, but never just for garden membership. Gardens should never have a cap on membership. Everyone should have a pathway to joining the garden group. There must be a $0 option for joining the garden group. People can participate in garden stewardship in ways beyond individual plots, such as assisting with site upkeep, events, maintaining open hours, and other tasks and activities associated with the operation of a publicly accessible community garden. The license also requires groups to maintain a safe and attractive garden space, and this can vary from garden to garden as no two community gardens are the same. Please remember that groups are not responsible for the structural repair of public sidewalks, retaining walls, and exterior fencing. We ask groups to follow a set of simple requirements. Follow safe soil gardening requirements, which requires vegetables and herbs to be grown in raised beds that are filled with clean soil and lined with landscape fabric. adhere to tree policies established by the agency, keep sidewalks, walkways, and curbs inside and adjacent to the garden clean and free of snow, ice, garbage, and plant debris. Remove all trash, debris, and personal items from the garden in a prompt manner. Keep all water sources covered to avoid mosquitoes, including barrels and rainwater harvesting systems. Ensure that all garden structures built inside the garden follow the city's code, including gazebos, casitas, and tool sheds. Keep all fences, raised beds, tables, benches, chairs, and other items clean and well maintained. Keep all tools tidy in secure storage areas such as tool sheds or locked toolboxes. Groups are required to host at least 2 free public events per year. Please remember that groups must notify GreenThumb before planning events, and they are required to obtain approval of events in advance by using the event request form. Any event held by or in partnership with GreenThumb or any garden meeting, garden workday, or activities typically associated with the routine operation and maintenance of the garden do not require approval. Gardens must have a way of locking the garden, and GreenThumb needs to be able to access the garden in the event of an emergency, for deliveries, and for site visits. There are 3 options for securing a garden fence: one combination lock, no key, a daisy chain lock system, and lockbox. Greenthumb community gardens are cared for by groups of volunteers from the community, and all neighbors must remain welcome to join Greenthumb gardens as members and to participate in decision making and governance as outlined in the license and gardens bylaws. We welcome partnerships between gardens and external organizations, but it is the individual run nature of community gardens that make them thrive. Therefore, membership in an external organization may never be a requirement of membership in the garden. Groups are required to send a garden representative to at least one GreenThumb sponsored event every year. Events can include the GreenThumb Grow Together conference, webinars, workshops, harvest fair, and many more. Attending events give us a chance to touch base with groups, to learn from you, and to help better support you and share information about the amazing work you do and the resources you need. Now turning to some important clauses in the agreement. The assumption of risk clause informs garden members that they take on the risk of participating in certain activities at the site. This is consistent with the general responsibility that the public has in using city property or engaging in activities that have an inherent risk of injury, such as organized sports. With gardening, risks include weeding in the summer heat, shoveling in the winter months, and exposure to poison ivy. The assumption of risk serves as a reminder to gardeners that gardening is not entirely risk-free, but we encourage gardeners to mitigate risk. For example, close the garden during thunderstorms, take breaks while shoveling snow, and drink plenty of water during the summer heat. This clause does not require garden groups to assume the risk for everything that happens inside community gardens. We ask groups to inform the garden membership twice annually, and this can be done by email, in person, or at meetings. Now, liability. In all instances, liability for potential injuries depends on the particular and unique circumstances of any given case. To help reduce the potential for injuries in gardens, it is important for parks to understand what is occurring, on public property under its jurisdiction. This is why garden groups must inform GreenThumb of planned public programming. If you have further questions on liability, we can direct gardeners to free and low-cost resources, including free legal sessions provided by pro bono legal service providers and affiliated with the city. While insurance is not required, a number of garden groups have secured insurance to mitigate liability and theft concerns. Failure to comply with the license can result in a violation letter. Repeated violations or serious violations can lead to termination or a license not being renewed. This is not our goal, and GreenThumb is here to help your group succeed. Garden groups that have abandoned their gardens or unable or unwilling to address and rectify violations will be at risk of having their license agreement terminated and their access to the garden revoked. Abandonment includes but is not limited to failing to maintain the garden, respond to correspondence, or hold required public hours and events. Violation and termination processes help make sure that gardens remain publicly accessible community spaces and meet the requirements laid out by the Parks Department. The license prohibits the rental of the garden space, and groups may never require the payment of a fee or a donation for an event. Security deposits are also not allowed. Groups may not advertise suggested donation or similar language. However, standalone donation boxes are allowed. Smoking and use of drugs and alcohol are not permitted. And the cultivation, use, sale, processing, or distribution of marijuana and hemp is prohibited inside GreenThumb community gardens. My next point is about the upcoming 2023 relicensing cycle. As part of this process, we created a survey for garden contacts, garden leaders, members, and anyone involved in the more than 370 community gardens owned by NYC Parks. This survey helps us understand your knowledge of the rules and regulations governing these spaces and provide clarifications as we approach the next relicensing cycle. In the next few weeks, GreenThumb will be hosting Q&A sessions to answer or clarify the terms of the license, policies, and regulations. We will use these sessions to guide you through the relicensing process and the required documentation. Finally, the GreenThumb Gardens Handbook will be updated. As you know, this is a resource for gardeners and the general public that aggregates many, but not all, policies, laws, and regulations about community gardens. The survey closed a few weeks ago, and I want to say thank you to all who provided feedback through this survey. We received over 340 responses, almost a 50% increase in the number of responses compared to the previous relicensing survey 4 years ago. The survey was offered in multiple languages and helped us understand your familiarity of the current license agreement. The survey about the 2019 license agreement was primarily designed to measure how aware respondents were of different aspects of the agreement and the policies it contained. The vast majority of respondents clearly indicated greatest awareness of the license requirements. The upcoming relicensing cycle includes a few but welcome changes to the 2023 license agreement. The new term of the renewable license is now 10 years instead of 4. Fundraisers to support the ongoing operation and maintenance of the garden can be held 4 times each year with prior approval from GreenThumb. In addition, it has been clarified that a fundraiser might be a one-off fundraiser event or an ongoing ticketed series. The waiver of jury trial section has been removed from the license agreement, whereas clauses that give some background on community gardens in New York City and our partnership with groups were added. The registration form and process have been streamlined. As part of the relicensing process, the GreenThumb Gardeners Handbook will be updated to reflect those changes and any clarification needed. The handbook will be available in multiple languages in print and digital formats. And to conclude, please share this video with other garden members. Invite other garden members to attend a Q&A session. And do not hesitate to contact your outreach coordinator if you have any questions or need clarifications about the license or this process. The current license agreement expires on December 31st, 2022. We will be mailing the relicensing package to the designated garden contacts this fall. Please make sure that your garden group submits a complete relicensing packet, including the registration form, updated garden bylaws, most up-to-date membership list, the open hours for next year, and the license agreement signed by the two designated garden contacts. Thanks for watching this presentation, and thanks for your ongoing partnership by continue bringing neighbors together to create welcoming, open public spaces that contribute to the environmental sustainability, public health, and community resilience of our city.